Today we will show you how I use the lessons learned in Chamber 11 on attacking the amnesia king in the center of the board, emulating the master Emery Tate. Rook takes d3 check. One of the rules when you are attacking the king in the center of the board, you're going to see that sacrifices become much more prevalent as they are utilized to blast open the lines of attack that lead to the king. What are some other factors that are very important when you are attacking the king in the center of the board? One of the most important parts is the pulse, and the pulse of course is the center, e4, e5, d4, d5. It is what dictates everything that happens on the rest of the board. And typically when you're attacking the king in the center of the board, you want the pulse to be as open as possible. And if we look at the center pawns here, this could possibly lead to the black rook coming in and attacking down the center file later in the game. Now let's get back to the attack. Black plays rook takes d3 check, queen takes d3. The other option here was to go pawn takes d3, but this leads to a similar type of attack that ends even quicker after queen b2. Queen b2 of course cuts off the king, trapping him on the back rank. It gets ready to march the pawn down the board with c2, c1, simply creating a runner that will create a second queen, and then the bishop on c6 can go into a4 and check the king down the freshly opened diagonal since the pawn is left. So queen takes d3 is definitely the more stubborn resistance, and here queen to b2. We could have also played knight to b4 possibly, but then we'd have to deal with the queen coming in and checking our king and running around and making us run around a little bit. This is the more crisp human type of method. Queen to b2, which of course now the queen still eyes the b1 square, but more importantly she now controls b5, where our bishop can enter and possibly cut off this escape square, and of course we are gaining a tempo on the white queen after bishop to b5. One of the rules on the attack on the king in the center of the board is that the tempo is paramount. You got to make sure you have moves that gain time and gain tempo, such as bishop b5 hitting the queen, such as queen b1 check. Maintaining the tempo simply means making your opponent do what you want them to do. You do not give them time to come after you and attack your king and put you in check, that you do not give them time to possibly attack your queen and make you have to move something over and over again. So after queen to b2, my opponent plays bishop to e3 and then bishop b5 as we were planning on the last move. Now here, if my opponent moves their queen somewhere with after something like queen to d4, we're now going to see this rook enter the attack after knight takes e3 check, queen takes e3, queen to b1, see that the bishop is cutting off the escape square. The only thing you can do is block with the queen. And after rook d8 check, now we see the importance of having open lines of attack, making sure that the pulse is vanished in the center of the board as much as possible, so you can blast open the center of the board and get to their king. After king to e1, queen to c1 check, queen takes c1 check, king to f2, queen takes f4 check, king to g1, and rook to d1 coming through the open highway and checkmating the king. So back to queen b2. And after queen to b2, my opponent played bishop to e3, bishop to b5, and then he counterattacks with bishop to c1. Remember, the goal of any attack on the king is to either checkmate them or just to simply take all of their pieces. And so here we play bishop takes d3, bishop takes b2, c takes b2. The runners are the passed pawns, and they can aid in the attack. If you can combine the attack on the king with the threat of potentially promoting a pawn, you're either going to gain some material or create a second queen to help checkmate your opponent. So after pawn takes b2, my opponent has to step up with king to d2, and this is where we see a very common overworking tactic. Overworking simply means that a piece has too many jobs to do. This rook on h1 can't stop the queen and protect things down the h file, so we have the nice rook takes h7, rook takes h7, bishop takes h7, trying to deflect this rook away, and of course if the rook leaves, we simply promote and get a queen, and we have a huge material advantage. So my opponent plays g3, and this is where we're going to stop for now until we see the solution to the next puzzle on at the final attack on X. Do not miss out on getting a limited edition signed and numbered version of the final attack now on Amazon.